Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Are you here? Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Hello, hello, hello. We're going to get started in a few minutes. So go grab something to drink. See you in a bit. We got 4 minutes before we start. Hi, Peg. Peg, how are you doing? This is what happens when we do lives. Peg, are you related to Marie? Peg, is this Peggy? I'm not sure who it is. Marie, do you have a relative?
Okay, this is really funny. I just logged on. Peg is my mom. Mom, are you on here?
Is that right?
Yeah, this is so funny.
Well, Peg, well, Mom, thank you for joining. Oh, now she left.
Maybe she doesn't know what she's doing.
Well, she must have registered because how else would she have gotten the link?
That's so funny. Oh
You
my
sure it's
goodness.
her? Is there another Peg Mengle out there?
I
Let's start with
I
that.
don't know any other Peg Bengal. It's
Really?
just so this is just you and I right now. Okay.
Well, I mean, for now, I mean, we're still technically we haven't started yet, so we're
Well,
the early birds right now.
where else did you register or advertise for this?
It was on IG, and I sent out an email to everyone on the email list.
Oh, okay.
But I say that in mind that that I just announced it like 5 hours ago. So it's
Gotcha.
a lot of time. It's not a lot of time. Whitney, how are you? How are you, Whitney?
I'm good. How are you?
Whitney, well, meet Marie. Whitney was just in our last class. She was in our hotel master class this week. So
My mom just texted me. She says, I have no idea. What did she say? I have no clue what just happened with my phone. I wasn't even on it. Oh my goodness. That's
right.
so funny.
So Whitney, we were on, and then Peg Mengle, which happens to be the same last name as Marie. So we had two people who were last name Mengle, and I don't know a Peg. And Marie logs in, and she's like, "That's my mom," and I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
"Okay, welcome, mom." And then mom drops off, and I guess she tells her daughter right now that she's like, "My phone just connected on its own." I'm like, "Really?"
Oh, that's kind of neat. She should stay and listen.
I know, right? I got
Yeah.
excited.
This is a
I
new.
tell her all the time to join when she sees stuff. She follows you, Ben.
Oh, does she? Okay, then that
Oh
makes
yeah.
sense. I will say this. I'm doing a new class. This is a new class. I just put it together because I was inspired. I saw somebody talk about basic economy and I was just kind of thought more about basic economy. And I said, you know what, we should do. Nobody ever talks about basic economy. And it's always something that we always run into when we're booking cash ticket. So I said, let's do a class on where did basic economy come from? And then should we book it or not? Is it really save us or not? So that is my topic today.
Awesome.
I'm gonna give a chance for everyone to log in. So I just saw Mia join in. So welcome, Mia.
So I'll tell you, Ben, I've been on a mission to have a bunch of cookies and smoothies to get my dining days up to 11.
Well, I mean, yeah, yeah, dude, yeah, those are cheap, easy ways to do it. That's right. That's
Mhm.
a good way to do it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, find a couple smoothie places you can go into and then get it done. Yeah, that's good.
There you go.
That's what I do, Whitney. I go to this coffee shop in town and after like, I get myself up to the 11.
And then once I hit the 11, then I'm going to have a really good time.
That's how to do it. Oh, look, your mom's coming back. Yeah, mom. Mom, you're
I
gonna be my
texted
star.
her. I told her to join us.
Mom, come, come. I love it. Peg, Miss Mengel, thank you for joining us. Peg, you're gonna be our star student today. You don't have to put yourself on camera if you don't want to. It's fine. Well, it just be me and Whitney. We're just having a conversation. You can listen in. And Mia, welcome, Mia. I know we have a few more people who are supposed to join us. Oh, oh, Peg, you joined us on camera. Peg, it's a pleasure.
Oh
It's
my gosh, that's so funny. Hi, Mom.
somebody wanted to hold on. I think Brooke said she's gonna come join us. She wants the link. Let's see here. Do I have a link? Okay. Peg, do you fly often? Oh, you're on mute, so I won't be able to hear you until you take yourself on mute. Let me see if I can ask you to unmute. I'm gonna ask you to unmute. There's like a
Okay,
button at the
I
bottom.
got it.
There you go.
Can you
Perfect.
hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
No, no, not as often as I used to.
Okay. Do you ever buy tickets? Do you ever see when you're booking a ticket on cash and it says basic economy?
Yes.
Do you ever? So today we're going to talk about whether you should do it or not
Okay.
because people get this question all the time. Like, I'm saving a lot of money. Should I just book basic economy or should I buy regular economy? And welcome, Brooke. How are you? Look at her, superstar with those shades on. You're very Hollywood today. Hello, Brooke. People in LA, they wear that when they had a big night out the night before for your birthday. No, it's okay. You can leave them on. Brooke, you can leave them on. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I did not have a big night. It's such beautiful weather here in Colorado today that I just decided to sit outside. It's been really hot the past few weeks, but it just happens to be spectacular today, so I'm just sitting outside. Nothing to hide.
nothing to hide. Not that we know that we know of. Okay, so today's topic is going to be a fun one. It's something that I thought about today, that I just thought about literally like 5 hours ago, and I said, I was going to do a new session for new people this week. And instead of just doing a regular news session, I decided I'm going to do a session regarding basic economy because I think we're all faced all the time when we're booking cash ticket. We're looking to find a deal, and the deal a lot of times is basic economy. And I don't find that anyone ever talks about this. Like I may do a reel on about this after. So you guys are like my guinea pigs for my session. So I'm going to talk about basic economy, and I'm more than happy to take your input. Um, this is not a me talking to you. This is me explaining the background history, and then here's my point of view. But love to hear what your thoughts are about basic economy tickets, and should we book them? Should we not book them? Does it differ from airline to airline? Should we take a budget airline like a Spirit? Should we take a Frontier? Sometimes the fare is so different that like maybe we need to, so those and Brooke, you're in Denver where it's like the home of Frontier, it's like, I think when I think of those ultra low cost carriers, I mean, I think you're right there. So that conversation, I'm sure everybody that lives in Denver has to consider or has taken that airline at some point because it's just so affordable. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So I think this is a good discussion just because I don't think we ever get to talk about it. So I decided I'm going to talk about it today. So I'm going to just start off with this. My first image, the golden age, the golden era of travel that people talk about all the time. But today, my talk is not about looking at the past. Today, I'm giving that because I want to talk about where we came from and how we got to where we are today. Because as you can see, this is not first class. This in the picture is economy, ladies and gentlemen. This was economy. Yes, this is how people. And by the way, if you all notice, this is how they dressed back then. I remember when I was a little kid, we had to dress up to get on a plane, and people dressed up like they were going to the Met Gala back in the day. So, I remember having to wear a suit. People wore suits, and they carried briefcases, and ladies put on their fine jewelry to get on a plane. Much, much different than it is today. So I think that also account for why it is what it is. So I want to kind of go back a little bit. And I first want to talk about why we're talking about this because we're going to talk about the seats first. I don't think you can talk about basic economy without talking about the seats. But the first thing I want to talk about is that they shrank. So economy seats at one time used to be 35-inch pitch. Now, let me just explain to you what is pitch. We hear this term pitch all the time. Oh, it's 31 inch. And what does that equate to? That's actually the height, that's from the back of your seat to the front to the seat in front of you. So how much space is between the back of your seat to the seat that's in front of you, that front seat in front of you. So your knees are going to be touching the front of that. So back in the day, it was 35 inches. Just to give you reference, as we got more lower fares, as we started moving further and further, we went from 35 down to 31. I would say that if you're flying on Spirit Air or if you're flying Frontier, you're looking at 28 and 29 inches. So 28 inches, just to give you an idea, like 24 is 2 feet. So plus another six, that's like 30. So 30, just give me 30. 30 is 2.5 feet. It's not a lot of room already. And that's before somebody reclines. That's before anybody even tries to recline. So 28 doesn't give you much. Just give you an idea. If anyone's ever flown a Spirit or Frontier, if you drop something on the floor, you couldn't look down and like you were gonna have to just kind of, like look up and then kind of feel with your hands because you can't look down because that seat would like hit you in the head. You won't be able to look down. So that's just give you an idea how close and tight 28, 29 inches is. The average adult, here's an interesting stat. The average adult from that time, 30 years ago, has gained in weight to 15 more pounds. The average American today weighs 15 more pounds than they did in the past. Here he has a raspy face. So here's the interesting thing. Here's the interesting thing. Everywhere else outside of the airplane, things have gone bigger. Like if you go to a movie theater now, the seats are larger. If you go to anywhere you go now, everything got. The only thing hasn't, and it's kind of stayed the same, is the airline seat. So 30 years ago, if people were smaller, it could be fine. But nowadays, you hear about people using extenders and having to buy two seats now on Southwest because it's just uncomfortable. I mean, I think all of us have ever sat in the aisle or the window and we were sat with somebody who was overflowing on the middle seat, and then your shoulder, like sometimes even if they're finally in their seat, but it's like shoulder to shoulder, you're like pushing, like, are you in the under or are you the over seat? Yeah, I don't know if anyone ever sat there where are you the under or are you the over, right? Yes. I mean, I've it's happened. It happens. So I think it's become less space, there's more discomfort, less mobility. This is actually a good argument for business class or first class domestic, just because there's more space for that. So it's not always about being bougie. Sometimes it's about just having more space. And if you have somebody who's tall, the legroom is not much at all in economy nowadays. So I just want to start off with that reference um, uh, for that. So that's kind of where we're at, and the reason why this is becoming more and more uncomfortable. Um, I do want to make a couple notes too. Small seats. The smaller seat, there's also bigger risk. It's not just about being uncomfortable. Sometimes it is dangerous, especially if you're going on longer flights. If you are flying a 10-hour flight and you're flying in economy, maybe you were 10 years ago, but as you are now, maybe somewhat some of us are a little bit older now, and it's just not good for our health. You need to get up and walk. They recommend at least once every hour, every 2 hours, you should get up and move your legs a little bit. I'm not recommending you do yoga in the aisleway as some influencers try to do, but get up, walk around, bend your knees. I really highly recommend, especially when you sit in tight seating. I've been on flights where I'm in the aisle all the time. I'm an aisle seater because I want to get up and walk and all that kind of stuff. But I've seen people where I get up and walk, and that person that sits in the window, they never get up like the whole flight. I don't know. They never go to the restroom. They never get to go walk. Like they just like sit in that seat the whole time. So, but it is dangerous. I want to make sure everybody is aware. It also makes evacuations also harder. I mean, God forbid something around a flight, but if you are on these tight spaces, it does get much, much more difficult to get out. And then people bring carry on now because they charge for bags. And so more obstacles during emergencies, which is another reason why they also recommend that people do not bring their carry-ons when there's emergency. Leave them all on because they're going to end up blocking somebody trying to get out during an emergency. So that's another reason why they asked this. Okay. So how did this whole thing happen? Where did this came from? So in 1978, our president at the time, which is Jimmy Carter, he signed something called the deregulation. So I'm going to talk about deregulation. Now, I have some older friends who flew a lot pre-deregulation. I want to explain to you how it looked like before, and that may help you explain why we have the airlines we have today. Okay, so back in the day, pre-deregulation, you would buy the ticket, the government would set the cost of the ticket. So you had like Pan Am, you had TWA, you had Eastern Airlines, you had all these they had all these different airlines, and all the different airlines were not allowed to set the rate. The rate of the airfare was set by the government. So the government set the rate. The airlines, so when you bought a ticket, when you went to the airport and you bought a ticket, they would have like you remember those carbon copy, like you had the white, the yellow, and the pink. You basically, they tore one, and then you got to walk over to any airline you want, and you could buy any ticket and fly any airline you want. So it wasn't like the way we do today where we have to buy it from the airline. Since everybody's rate was the same, the airlines had to sell why, hey, you should fly with us. So this is why they serve Chateaubriand. That's why they served all this nice and fancy stuff, because they were trying to get people who had money, because back then, economy flight was like, $800, $900. I mean, remember, this is like 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. I'm sorry, 1978. This is like almost 50 years ago. Okay, at that time. And so that was a lot of money back then. I mean, homes were like $30,000. So $1,000 ticket is like pretty expensive back then. So it came with check bags, it came with meals, it came with assigned seats. Like they didn't nickel and dime you because the government set the rate, and basically you had to lure people. So you had to sell the perks. Maybe you sold that your flight attendants were young and unmarried and whatever that is, back then. So those are things that they sold to get people to come. Now, after 1978, they decided the government wasn't gonna be involved in setting the rate anymore. And after that, that became when the airlines started to set their own rate. And then they started saying, you know what, we can do certain routes. We don't have to offer everything under the sun anymore because now we actually have to show how we can be able to make money. And so fewer perks, more fees started to pop up and things like that over time. Let's see any questions here. All right. So let's go from the rise of basic economy. So let's just talk a little bit about basic economy. Okay, so the idea behind basic economy came from Southwest. Actually, I'm gonna say this. Southwest was the one of the original low-cost carriers. And today I would not call them a low-cost carrier, but they were for a long time. What we think about low-cost carrier today, actually, background on Southwest based out of Dallas. They were a regional carrier. For a long time, why they didn't charge a bag and why they didn't charge for a seat selection is because they could not. Meaning that like they didn't have the tech. The technology could not let them charge. Let me give you an example. This is a few years back. We landed, we landed and off of Southwest flight, and a lady went to go look at her bag at the carousel. And she's like, she doesn't see her bag. She goes to the Southwest agent, the bag agent, and she says to her, "Hey, here's my ticket. I'm looking for my bag. Do you know where it's at?" Then the Southwest agent looked at her and says, "We don't know where your bag is at, but we'll find it." She goes, "Oh no, but here's my ticket. Can't you scan it and find out?" She's like, she goes, "That ticket tells us you checked the bag. Yes, but we don't know where it's at." So we can confirm that you have a bag, but we can't tell you where it's at. Like there was no technology on their part to actually like there was no air tag technology. There was no like checked in, checked, the journey of the bag. They didn't have that tech. They didn't also have the tech for a long time to charge for the seat because there were always no seats. So they couldn't charge the seat and they were losing money on it. It wasn't until maybe like about 2, 3 years ago where they upgraded their system where they're able to. When they were able to, that technology was now available to them. So they always sold that they didn't, what everybody else started charging and they were losing money. They always sold that they didn't charge for bag fee and they didn't charge for seat selection because they didn't have the ability to. They basically turned lemons into lemonade. But nowadays they have the tech, so now they can. So for a long time, it was really the issue is that they didn't have the technology to do it, and you're probably wondering why they are. So it served them well when they were regional, but now that they're a national carrier, it's much harder. And the new owners of Southwest really do want them to start charging and making money from that. So I don't see that going back. With that in mind, the new airlines, Spirit, Frontier, Allegiant, Sun Country, all these ultra low costs have really tightened the seats, try to get as many people as possible. There's even talk nowadays of planes that actually have kind of pseudo standing seats. Have you seen those pictures of those pseudo standing seats? And I'm thinking to myself, what flight are we doing now that they're going to put those on? Because I mean, that's really like a flying bus now. Now we're really on a bus if we would like to actually do that. Um, but deregulation led to basic economy. And so here's the thing. I'll give American is probably the best example of what's happened in the last 10 years. American was bought out by a company called US Airways. Southwest, like they're going to, they're trying to buy companies as well. They bought AirTran. Everybody remembers AirTran. They bought AirTran. So every airline today that we know of has gone there because of acquisition. American was acquired. American filed bankruptcy in 2013, and then U.S. Airways bought them. But U.S. Airways management used to run a company in Phoenix called America West. Does anyone remember America West? Okay, America West. America West was a low-cost carrier out of Phoenix, and they were competing against Southwest at the time, and they had seat selection too. So America West management, run by Doug Parker, Robert Isom, ends up running and buying out U.S. Airways, and then U.S. Airways, which is this discount airline, buys American, which is like a full service airline. Think of American back in the day like Delta is today. American used to be like Delta, but when U.S. Airways bought American, American became U.S. Airways, even though they had the American name. But the reason that happens is because American had the bigger name. Like they were the national airline. They had the prestige. So when US Airways bought American, which is what really happened, the US Airways people took over the American company and the American started doing this downfall. The downfall of American is really because of the US Airways back in 2014. So it's still, to this day, it's run by US Airways people. It's run by the US Airways people. So if you're wondering sometimes when you wonder why some of the flight attendants are kind of bemoaning the Doug Crandall days back when it was still like service and everything like that, is because it is run by a different management team than it is in the past. And that group, that discount airline mentality has permeated to American. So American felt they needed to compete with two markets. At the front of the plane with business class and everything, they're in one world. They need to be a world-class airline like a Cathay Pacific and Japan airline. They need it because they're going to get those type of customers on it. And so they said, those kind of customers we need to cater to. We're going to have a business class. So the business class is actually pretty good. But when you get to the back of the plane in economy, they decided they were going to lose, they were losing business to airlines like Spirit. So they said in the back of the plane, we're going to compete against Spirit. So in the front of the plane, we're competing against, Qatar and we're going to keep up with them. But on the back of the plane in economy, the airlines, the Americans' problem they have right now is that there are two airlines, the front of the plane and the back of the plane. And it confuses the flight attendants. This is the reason what's going on with American right now. So the back of the plane, they said, we're going to have not only economy, but we're going to have basic economy. And basic economy was, how do I get someone who's flying Spirit or thinking about Spirit to come fly us? So we'll create basic economy. This has actually killed Spirit. So this is actually effectively caused what is happening to Spirit right now. That's why Spirit needed to do a merger with Frontier, which JetBlue said, no, 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 we want to do the merger. And in the end, none of it happened. So Spirit's going to suffer. JetBlue's suffering. I mean, we just saw JetBlue this week say they had to cancel all their Miami flights. Now they're just canceling it all because JetBlue. I'll say this. I think JetBlue is like 6 months to a year away from filing bankruptcy if they don't get bought out by United in the end. Like that United is like their lifeline. Like, okay, they gave up all their gates that they have in JFK to give it to United. I mean, so JetBlue, here's the thing. It is the bad position to be the sixth and seventh largest airline in America because you have no redundancy. If you only have one flight and that flight gets delayed and canceled, that client's having a bad experience. They can't get on another plane, and that's hurting them. And so they're gonna run a few more quarters, and they have to show how they can make money. Some of the airlines haven't made money since the pandemic. Some of the airlines haven't made money since the pandemic. So the basic economy, the idea behind basic economy is how do we keep them going? How do we keep it going? So basic economy is low price up front, and we're going to treat it like you're flying Spirit. So you know how in Spirit they're going to charge you for this, that, and everything. So that's how they approach basic economy because the kind of person who's buying basic economy was willing to fly Spirit. So if you're used to flying American or you're used to flying a regular airline, a legacy airline, booking base economy is not really who they're geared for. So although you may see economy and base economy and you may go, well, it's less expensive and I'm on American. Yeah, but they take away a lot of things that it's going to be like, for example, no seat selection. Can you get a seat selection? Sure you can, but you're going to have to pay for it. But what if I brought my little kids with me? Well, you're going to have to pay for it, or you're going to have to buy this economy ticket, okay? I say no overhead space. Why no overhead space is because first of all, most of the airlines don't even let you bring a carry-on bag. United says the only way you can bring a carry-on bag is if you have a credit card with us, if you book basic economy, their basic economy. If they do let you bring on a bag, you're the last one to get on board. So you're last to board. Now, most of us know if you're the last one to board, you may be trying to find space. Where can you put your overhead bag? And it may not be next to you. It may be 10 rows down from where you're sitting. It may be behind you. And now you got to wait for everyone to get off the plane and go back and get your bag. So it's a mess at times when you're flying like that. So I want to make sure everybody's aware when you're booking base economy, this is the scenario you're faced with. American's probably the best at basic economy, meaning like if you had to pick basic economy, American's one is the best. I'll go into why a little bit later. But basically, it's designed to have you buy up to whatever economy would be. So if you're going to bring a bag on, if you're going to seat select anyway, you probably should consider booking a regular economy ticket. Yeah, at that time. All right. Oh, by the way, I want to bring up one thing. There is something called economy Y fare. You ever heard of a Y fare before? Y fare? Okay. A Y fare is what we call a full fare economy ticket. Sometimes we use, there's like a universal code. Y, we're usually referring to economy, J, we're referring to business, and then F, we're referring to first class. When we say a Y fare or full fare, Y fare, that is the most expensive economy ticket. That was so, okay, it's an interesting thing. A Y fare, I don't even talk about this in the master class. We don't have time to. I'm going to just talk right now. A Y fare was was meant for business travelers. Okay, so I'll explain this one. Okay, a Y fare is meant for business travelers. So if you buy a Y fare, you will automatically get upgraded into business. Let me repeat. If you buy a Y fare, you'll automatically get upgraded, assuming it's not sold out. Assuming it's not sold out, you'll automatically get upgraded. Now you're probably going, well, why would you buy a business class if an economy ticket can get you upgraded? Okay, so I want think about this, the economics. Who needs to get on a plane every week? That's probably a business traveler. A leisure traveler is not traveling as much, right? So a business traveler needs to fly all the time. A business traveler would love to be up front because they need comfort because they're doing it all the time. They don't want to be sitting in the back of the seat. But most companies do not pay for business class for their customers, for their travelers. They're usually buying a economy ticket. So a lot of times the fare on the fare that they're allowed to buy for a business as a business traveler is an economy ticket. Now, here's the thing. The way it looks like from pricing is you see how it is basic economy, then fully refundable. So there's three levels of economy. Guess which one sells first out? Basic economy, because that's the least expensive. Everyone buys that. Then once that's sold out, let's just say it's a bucket. They'll say that's 10 tickets. We sold that 10 tickets. Now they move into the second group. And once those get sold out, now they only have the economy ones. These are usually means that these are at the final, like the day before, 2 days before. These are the only ones that they're selling. Sometimes you'll see like on American, it'll be like a V fare or something like that. It'll be like a pretty expensive ticket. In fact, sometimes this ticket is so much, it's more than a business class. Sometimes it's not all the time, but sometimes you'll see this weird scenario where the economy wide ticket costs more than a business. But just to give you an idea, it is the most expensive. Most of you and myself will never buy a wide ticket because it's pretty expensive. But if I'm a business traveler and I'm not allowed to buy business, but I'm allowed to buy an economy, and it is an economy, I can, within my corporate rules, buy an economy ticket and get upgraded into business. And the airline knows that. So it's literally a game that the airline plays so that the business traveler can be able to fly last minute and still get upgraded automatically, even without status. On award tickets automatically. I'm sorry, what's in here? When aren't award tickets automatically why? Yeah, I mean, yes, award tickets typically are, you know what? Here, no, they're not. Technically, a wide ticket is a revenue ticket. The airlines actually have a code for revenue versus award ticket. So, like, let's say you want to get upgraded, you have to look for a ticket that's an award ticket that has the ability to get upgraded. They'll say C space. So that's sometimes a C. There'll be a C letter. So if you can be able to buy a ticket that is upgradable. So we usually call that a C ticket, not a Y ticket. So Y would be revenue, where a C would be upgradable on points. Yeah, correct. But very good question. But the airlines do know. Oh, so here's the thing. If you bring your ticket to the gate agent, and they can tell by the code whether you have an award ticket or it's a revenue ticket. Yeah, because of the code. Yeah. All right. Um, just going back to the seat for example, the FAA actually has been asked to regulate the seat. Okay, like should they be able to tell the airlines, you know what? You guys cannot cram in more people. Like there have been talks and pushed from the government to the government, to the FAA to say, hey, you should tell these airlines it is against, unsafe and because it is a health issue But they, at this point, the study has not been passed, but they did do a study, and they said that the study in 2019 was designed, and it said that it was safe. But what they didn't take a look in was like, what about older customers? What about people who are disabled? What about larger people? So they didn't really dive deep enough. But basically, when the FAA did their study, they said that the current size is safe. But I think there's questionable whether that there should be more done for that. So I don't know. I don't see the airlines right now making it more comfortable or bigger. What they have done is they try to make it comfortable, but here's the biggest problem of it. They have people now whose job is to calculate how much fuel, because fuel is one of the biggest cost of running an airline. And the thicker the seats, the more weight, all that kind of stuff comes into play. That causes more fuel, costs more money. So if they just made the seats thinner, they save money. That's just where it come down to. And so that's where we're at right now. I don't think we're gonna get into nice plush seats or anything like that ever again. It's just not gonna happen unless an airline decides they're gonna make a big push for that. So is flying better now? Well, flights are cheaper now. I mean, if you think about it, it's more accessible to everyone. Flights are definitely less expensive. It was not just for the wealthy like it was in the past. Um, and I would recommend that unless you learn about points and miles or you learn about how to use it, you're going to be able to benefit more from it. I know there's some people who are watching this on YouTube right now. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask. Let's see here. We're going to keep on going. Okay, so let's talk about how to choose the best seats. Okay, so one of the first things I would go and take a look at is something called Google Flights. If you haven't used Google Flights before, but in the Chrome application, it's one of the best. So let me just show you what it looks like in Chrome. Uh, so if you look at this in Chrome, I added two extensions. One is called Points Path, and the other one I use is also one called other than Points Path, I also one called Arrow. What's it called? Arrow. What is it called? Flight Arrow. Is it Arrow? Something like that. Why can't I remember? Travel Arrow. It's like Arrow, something with an arrow. I'm trying to remember whatever it is. But let me just give you an idea. When you add the extension on there, you can actually see Frontier, it says 28 inches, so not that great. United's at 30, Southwest is at 31, American's at 30. This is for their regular seat. This is not for their extra legroom, but they're just showing you what their regular seat would be. I'll just change to Fort Lauderdale because I want to show you a different airline. Just so you see, if you can see JetBlue probably has one of the best in terms of, look, if you can see here, JetBlue's minimum seat is like 33 inches, really, really good. And I don't know, did you know, by the way, Brooke, that you can actually look at the points and miles here if you on Google Flights? Yeah, you have it. You have the extension on. It's pretty cool. All right, so let me go back. Okay, so use Google Flights if you want to see the leg room and all that. That's a really good one. You can add in that extension, and then also use Aerolopa if you want to look at the seat selection. I don't recommend Seat Guru anymore. If you're using Seat Guru, they are not updating it. You may see some old blogs say Seat Guru, but I do not use Seat Guru anymore. I think Aerolopa is much, much better. And there's also another one out there now called Seat Maps. Have you heard of that? Seat Maps. So let me just go to that one to show you. So let me just go to Airlopa first. And you can look it up. If you're wondering, by the way, like I'll just use American for example. If you're looking at the 777 and the 787, these are all the planes that the wide body planes, which is an international configuration. These are the flights that actually have the lie flat bed. Um, The ones you're flying domestically will not. So the way you can tell if it's a lie flat is going to look like this. It's going to be a one configuration and then two and then one. Once you see a 1-2-1 configuration, for sure that's a lie flat bad situation. Okay. Now you may wonder what's the difference between this section and this section. The front section and the rear section on this plane here is exactly the same. The seats are not no different. Sometimes there's only 4 rows or less rows here. And sometimes we call that the mini cabin. So if you ever hear the term mini cabin, they're referring to that smaller section. And in American on an international, they have something called premium economy. Premium economy is like domestic first, but better because it even has a footrest for you. So think of like domestic first. It's a little bit wider. You're sitting, there's a real divider, not just like a little handrail, but really nice. I would suggest if you're flying American, the first row, row 13, is the best. There's no more space there than anything else. And the good thing about American is the TV screen I don't think on this one, it doesn't come off out of I think it's on the wall. If I'm not wrong, I think the screen's on the wall for this particular plane. Anyway, then once you get to there, then it becomes, so you can see 242, that's your premium economy. And then we get to economy, you have 343 in the back. Now, I just want to let you know, there's no difference between 25 and row 21. The difference is in the orange. The orange is what they call main extra legroom or main cabin extra. This is a extra, it just means that there's space further. So you get another 2 more inches on row 19, 17, 18, and 19. So that's what it means there when you're looking at that, okay? But so on the front of every section, there's going to be that. That's it. All right. So let's keep going. Let's see if there's any questions. Travel Arrow, Whitney, thank you. Travel Arrow, that's the one. I couldn't remember. I just knew it was Arrow. It was like Arrow something. I'm like Arrow. Okay. And then let me go to, if you never looked at seats, seat map. So seat map's pretty cool too. This one here, you can put in the flight that you're flying, but you can also put in the airline if you know. But yeah, if you know the airline you're flying, you can as well. Let's just pull up one just so we can see what it looks like. Let's pull up Air Canada, for example. Let's do 777. Okay. So this is what it looks like here. So here on theirs, they're more clear on how many seats, what's the pitch. So 37 is really good. Width is 20. By the way, I would say most of you, when you're flying economy, you're usually looking at 17 inches width to like 17 and a half. 17 to 17 and a half is what most airlines when you're sitting on. So just give you an idea. 18 is better. So if you found an economy seat where it was 18 on the width of your seat, that's great. Premium economy at 20 is really good. You're going to be fine at 20, and it does recline a little bit more. So a lot of times people do not book. They think economy is too tight. I would recommend premium economy is good as well. Now here's the thing. It used to be premium economy just used to be like maybe like 200-300 more on an international flight. It's no longer like that. Like if you go to Asia, premium economy now in cash is like double. It's like a double the cost now. It used to be a great deal. And I think a lot of people who don't want to pay for business or can't afford to pay business, they will pay for premium economy. So I will say this, if you are looking at premium economy and it's available and you want to save some mileage, it can be worthwhile. I will say that I think you get a better deal if you can get a good deal in business. You should go for business all the way. But if someone had to sit in premium economy on an international flight, I would say I have no problem. It's totally fine. Like you won't feel like it was uncomfortable. I think you will feel pretty comfortable with premium economy, I think for most people. Okay. They even give you a little depending on what airline you fly, like a lot of time they'll give you a little amenity kit, you'll have slippers, you'll have like a light blanket. Some airlines like ANA and JAL, do you know that they give you lounge access if you fly premium economy? Yeah, you have business class lounge access. Yes, a lot of you didn't know. If you fly premium economy on JAL, on JAL, or on ANA airlines, they give you business class lounge access. Yeah, so it's not a bad deal on those airlines at all for premium economy, and you're not paying business class prices. So it's something to consider next time you're flying. Okay. All right. I want to give you guys all your options. Oh wow, I am getting close to time. Okay. So far so good. By the way, so when you are looking, you're going to be looking at the airline, the plane that you're flying. I just happen to know, I mean, Airbus 330 is a wide body, same thing with the three. So 330, 340, 350, anything the Airbus is, 330, 340, 350, the higher the number, the newer the plane, okay? The higher the number, the new plane. However, on the Boeings, which is the equivalent there, the competitor to Airbus's wide bodies is Boeing, and theirs starts off with 747, the 757, they stopped running it. 767, they stopped running most of them. It's 777, 787. Now they even have a 787, 900 and 787, 1000. The higher the number usually means the bigger, the longer the plane. Okay, so I'm just letting you know. So like, but here's a weird thing. The 777 is bigger than the 787. I know it sounds strange. You would think the 78s, the newer planes, but the 777 is the biggest plane that Boeing has. And the 787 is more of the eco-friendly, uh, more fuel efficient, quieter, has more humidity, so it's better for you. So like if you had a choice and you want to feel more refreshed, you're gonna probably fly in a Dreamliner, the 787. So they call the 787s the Dreamliner. So you hear 787, that's the Dreamliner. The 777 has been running now for at least 30 years, and they're still the workhorse, and they do a lot, and they're a lot bigger. So you'll find that that plane is bigger than the 787, but they're both international planes. Okay. Questions. All right. Oh yeah. So yeah, you can do that legroom check. You can look for a legroom extension for the Google Chrome, and then you can add that in. All right. So 32, here's the thing. 30, 31, I think is like average. Once we get to 32 and up, or 33, then we're starting to feel comfortable. I would say that JetBlue and Southwest, the two non-legacy airlines, their normal seat is some of the best or the widest. Okay. So like Southwest being 32 and JetBlue being 33. JetBlue's extra legroom, like they call it even more space. That's what they call theirs. JetBlue's extra legroom, if you have mosaic status, is actually 36 inches. There's a lot of space. Yeah. And they'll give you free upgrades if you're a mosaic with them. And then Deltas, most of the planes are 32. They're pretty consistent. Japan Airlines, they're international airlines. Sometimes you will go, if I'm going to fly internationally on a long haul, Japan's average legroom is 34 inches. So they're more than the American ones. And then they have a 242 configuration, a 333 configuration. Does anyone here have a preference, whether 242 or 333? I mean, if it's 242, then and you're flying with two people, then you're going to look for the two together. So I would pick that. If you're three together, so you can see here that 242, and then you got Hawaiian and Alaska. They're 3132. They're Airbus 330. They're good for couples and for families. So if you're flying a Hawaiian airline, consider that. Um, the 242, you'll see that with most of the airlines on in economy. When you start seeing 232, usually that's going to be premium economy, or some airlines have 232. Um, Here's an interesting thing. Business class on some airlines are 232. And Whitney going, what airline am I? What business class do I thought they're all the 121 nowadays, right? Yeah, there's some 232. One of them is Lufthansa. Lufthansa business class is 232. Sometimes it's 222. Okay. But still, it's six across. Another one that's like that is, let me show you this. Let me show you this. And people are going to be surprised when they hear this one. Oh, actually, this one this is not, this is a 380. This one's fine. Um, Let me see. Actually, and this one's a 121. Where's the old one? Is it this one here? Yeah, it's like that. See, it's a, I think it's a one. No, it's yeah, it's a one, it's a 232. I think this is a 232. Yes, it's a 232. This is this is on the 777 on business class. It's a 232. I think they're changing them, but it's possible you get on an Emirates flight and you got business class and it's a 232 configuration. You're going, wait, what happened? I thought Emirates is supposed to be like, see, like you can see there's two screens here. This is two seats here in the corner. It's not one seat. Now, like you would normally think it'd be 121, right? But no, I mean, this is Emirates business class. So when you hear people talk about Emirates, they're usually talking about first class when they're raving about it. But then a lot of people think, oh, well, if their first class has got great, then their business class must be great too. And I'm going to say that their business class is not better than other airlines' business class. Their first class is top in the world, but their business class is not. So just want to make sure. But a lot of times they get this aura because their first class is so famous that people don't ever check out their business class and they just think, oh well, if their first class is great, their business class could be no. And unfortunately, they get a lot of the ripple effects of first class, but do not. So. Whitney says I had premium for Emirates work and not a fan. So you've flown Emirates on the premium economy? Okay. Oh,
Yeah, and it's yeah. I
is
and
it?
I flew to Australia premium on United, and I much preferred that one.
Okay. Yeah. I, it's hard. Emirates is a difficult one because they lean on this luxury part of it, but it really come down to that their first class is fantastic and people talk about that and it's great for miles and things like that, but not necessarily. Okay, so let me just kind of talk a little bit about main cabin. If you're booking main cabin, you get to choose a seat, whereas basic economy you do not. Basic economy you're last aboard, no changes are allowed. Whereas main cabin, when you're booking a regular economy, you get to board earlier. So if your team carry on, you probably want now if you're checking a bag, it's one thing, but if you're carrying on a bag, you don't want to be the last to board, and then you can still make changes if you need to. So keep that in mind, folks. When you're booking basic economy, they're taking away a lot of your right to bring on a bag, your right to board early, your right to. There's not many rights left when you book basic economy. Remember, because they're comparing you to Spirit. So just think you're on their rules. So if you skip basic economy by booking points and miles, a lot of times you will not like I don't know of any situation yet where booking points and miles on a ticket is going to get you in basic economy. So even if you book an economy ticket with miles, you're always getting a full fare like a regular economy ticket, not a basic economy ticket. So when you're doing that comparison, don't compare points and miles to a basic economy. Compare the points and miles to a regular economy. Okay. And then that improves also once you fly flying main cabin, premium economy, and business. Many times too, business class, you don't have to pay for seat selection. When you're paying these other ones, there will still be maybe some seat selection fee, but business you definitely are not. Okay. There's a couple cards you may want to consider we've been hearing this week. I did want to let you know all the attention this week has been on the Chase Sapphire Reserve, but the Chase Sapphire Preferred recently also got an uplift from 60,000 to 75. So if you don't have either one and you are thinking about getting one, I'm going to put in the link here. If you are thinking about getting it, I appreciate any support. And you can transfer airlines United, Southwest, Air France, KLM. There's a bunch of airlines you can transfer, as well as you can transfer hotels like Hyatt, IHG, and Marriott. And then if you have the reserve, you're going to get lounge access, a $300 credit, and a bunch of other credit because everybody has Peloton, right? Everybody needs Apple credit, so there's a bunch of credits now that we have to see if we can use or go find out ways. I'm committed to go and eat at those restaurants and use the credit, so I will go do that. So you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve. They've offered the biggest bonus they've ever had. They've matched their 100,000 bonus they did back in 2016, and they've added this time $500 of airline credit, which I would say this is the equivalent to 125,000 welcome bonus. So 100,000 and 500 CSR is equivalent to 125. I know some of us would have preferred a bigger one for a $795 card, but this is what it is. Um, so let me just kind of give you guys the breakdown between the different airlines. If you book a ticket, basic economy on American, here's what we're gonna get. You are allowed to carry on. Okay, so they originally they said you're not allowed to carry on, but basic economy you are allowed to carry on. But here's my take on it. You're still gonna board last, okay, on basic economy. But here's a good thing. If you get status with American, you get to jump the line. If you have status with American, they let you board with your group. Now, what does that mean? So if you're executive platinum, you're now group two, as opposed you jump from 9 to 2. If you're platinum pro, you're in group 3, and if you're gold, you group 4, and if you have the credit card with American, you group 5. So if you have a credit card, you book basic economy, you group 5, you'd still be able to get your bag on, not a problem, and they don't charge you for carry on. There is no seat selection, although once you get to the day of, you could be able to you probably can get a better good idea. And if you don't really care where you sit, it's better if you probably check in seats, let them seat select you at the gate, because if you're flying by yourself, they now may see whatever they have available. And there's many times they'll block out those extra legroom seats for elites. And if no elites take all the seats up, they could give you the extra legroom. They could. So I suggest you bring some chocolates, save some chocolates that you bought from those gift cards, and give it to your friendly check-in agent when you check in. Okay. Uh, hint, hint. Boarding group 9, like I said, group last one to board unless you have status or you have a credit card, you can jump the line. You won't be able to make changes. You can't be able to make any upgrades. You can cancel. You're allowed to cancel. And if you're canceled, you get 6 months of credit, and there's a $99 fee. So if you bought a $300 ticket, you're going to get back $200 of credit that you have 6 months to use. Okay. So it is the best of all the basic economy fares. Okay. Let's go to Delta. Delta, you're allowed to carry on. You don't get to choose a seat. You don't get to change. There's no elite perks. You're board last. Here's the killer one. Delta, because they're a premium airline, they don't like basic economy people hobnobbing with their Sky Club people. So if you buy basic economy, you're not allowed in the club. But Ben, I have the Amex, but Ben, I have a Delta Reserve card. Yeah, you cannot book basic economy and get it. They're gonna look at your ticket and go out. Not allowed inside. So they only want economy pouchers and higher with if you have lounge access. So do not buy basic economy, cannot get in the club. They're probably the strictest. Okay, let's go to United. Okay, United says no carry-on at all. No carry-on. So what are you gonna do then? You either gotta backpack it or you're gonna check your bag. So just know when you buy United, you're not gonna be able to carry on unless you have a credit card or unless you're an elite. So you're gonna have to have no seat selection. You board last, no changes. And here's the biggest problem about boarding last. If you're carry-on, even if you did get a carry-on, boarding last means you're gonna have to find that space, and that can, it's difficult. It's just difficult. So if you are flying basic economy, I highly recommend you get a credit card with them, because if you don't, buying basic economy and no credit card is no bueno. You're gonna pay more money. So think about it and maybe fly another airline if you're not already United Elite. Okay. So they're probably the hardest one. United's probably the hardest one to fly basic economy. Okay, Southwest. Southwest did not have basic economy at all, ever, and now they do. So it's coming into play now. Their basic economy is they don't have there. It used to be called Wanna Get Away, and now they moved away from Wanna Get Away to Basic. It's just called Basic now, and now they have what they call Wanna Get Away Plus. So it's Basic and Wanna Get Away Plus. Basic says no free check bags. If you check a bag, it's $35 for the first, it's 45 for the second, and if you're overweight, it's $100. So they went all in. And I want to clarify one thing. Remember we talked about technology? They didn't have the technology. Well, they still lack the technology. You cannot pay for the bag online because they don't have the tech for that. You have to pay for the bag when you arrive at the gate. I'm sorry, at the check-in counter. you pay there. So so just be aware okay, so what does that mean? It means that everyone is going to try to take a little more time because not only they have to weigh it and check the bag and check your ID, now they're going to say, please take out your credit card. We got to swipe and multiply that by all the people in front of you. So, maybe add another minute or so more or whatever it's going to take to pay. So, and then some of the people who are going to be surprised that they're going, what? What do you mean pay? This is Southwest. Sorry, you didn't get the memo. Under new management, everyone, no seat selection. Right now, I will say this. Right now, you still get to choose seats. In September, that's going to change. So the check bag is already come into play because my wife just flew the other day. She was able to choose a seat. I'm sorry. She was able to choose whatever seat she wanted. She still boarded the same way, but coming in September in a few months, they're going to move to this new seat selection thing. I think they're going to also come in ultimately with extra legroom. Not that they need it right now, but they're going to. I think they're because eventually they can charge more for it, if they're going to go down that road. There's no change fee, although basic economy, by the way, basic economy does not allow you to change. I'm sorry, they don't allow you to change, but you can cancel and then rebook. Good thing about it is if the fare goes down, you can rebook it for less. If it goes up, then you're gonna have to pay the difference. Okay, so they won't let you change free. You have to cancel, um, but you have to cancel and rebook. So that's not a problem there. But you do only have 6 months, so you have 6 months to use it, not a whole year. Just be aware. Okay, so here's a little chart. Carry on. Everyone says yes except for United. They're the one that did not, unless you have a credit card. Seat selection. Nobody allows you seat selection if you book basic economy. Elite benefits, yes, they apply for Southwest and for American, not for United or Delta. Changes are none of them are allowed except for actually Southwest is a no as well. I'm sorry. It should say no. Change is not allowed, but cancel is yes, it's fine, and rebook. So it kind of is a change in a form, but you got to cancel the ticket and then rebook it. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Ben, aren't all Southwest seats the same pitch? Yes. Is there more for room unless you retrofit? I mean, there isn't room for more leg room unless. Yeah, but I, I think this is what they're gonna do. I think they're gonna probably take out the first few rows. One thing I'm interested in is you book basic economy, does the airline still have to follow the FAA rule about seeing family together? Yes. If it's an FAA rule, like they have to sit together, the answer is yes. But it's funny. I actually saw a lady today in Threads. She was complaining that Delta wanted to charge her for basic economy. She booked basic economy, and then Delta wanted her to pay for. I don't know if they wanted her to pay, but they said basically they looked at her ticket at the gate. She didn't. Here's the thing. She didn't check in or she didn't choose a seat. She just left. She booked basic economy because she wasn't able to choose. She just basically left it all the way to the end. When she got to the gate, when they're ready to seat and they're about to sign her, they didn't have seats together. So the gate agent looked at it and said, "Well, you booked a basic economy." She's like, "Well, but I'm always flying with my daughter who's like 5 years old. She can't sit by herself." And it's true, they can't. Here's what I would do. If you're booking a basic economy and you know you can't choose a seat, what I would do is I would send a note to Delta maybe a few days before or 5 days before. Send a note through Twitter or through the chat or call them up and say, I'm sitting with my daughter. Can you make sure that we're in the same area or together in the same, they may not necessarily, but at least they know. You would think they know, but if they don't, maybe they can assign it as it gets much, much closer. I would do that. And most of the time it works. So it's kind of a loophole like you said, because the FAA says that you have to be able to sit together. But if they don't sit together, now they have to ask people to move around, and they kind of don't really want to do that. Remember, keep in mind, some people pay to sit in the seat they want. You're like, people pay to sit in the aisle, or they're paying extra because the airlines have gone to do that. So it's difficult to ask people to switch. So my suggestion all the time, whenever you are trying to switch with somebody, and you book your kids, I always say book an aisle and book a window. Leave the so you could if you have a window and aisle, you can always use that as a negotiating tool. You can't really negotiate much with a middle seat. Nobody wants to give up a aisle seat for a window. But if you have an aisle, put your kid on the aisle there, and then if you need to to move it around, I'm sure somebody will give up their middle seat to take your aisle seat. So those are your bargaining chips when you're flying. All right. I am right at time. So questions, answers, and anybody have questions, feel free. Did we ever go live? All right. When is the next masterclass? Yes, very good. The next masterclass is July the 14 to 17. July 14 to 17. Brooke, if you have anybody that'd like to come, more than happy to have them. So just give you an idea what we're going to cover in the airline class. We'll cover credit cards. It's more of a beginner class. So here's the thing that I found with the class. It's actually the second class I came up with, but it's really the first class for most people because what people need to get wrap their heads around initially when they first get started is I hear about all this thing about credit, and then they have a lot of confusion in their head about what makes sense with credit. Should I get a credit? The biggest challenge I had early on was, gosh, if I sign up for all these credit cards, it's going to tank my credit. We'll talk about that. Will it or will not? And I think those are the biggest things. Whitney, you're shaking your head. I'll tell you, the reason your friends and family are not all crazy people like us and flying for free is because these roadblocks stop them from going all for it, and I think that's the thing. They've been taught certain things, and I look, I was in financial services for many years, and I mean, it's almost one of those things like if you not understand how your credit works and your credit profile works, then it's really difficult to get into this. So I kind of dedicate at least a day, one of those days to cover credit because I think it's important to cover because if you don't overcome that, we can't get deep into getting this card, that card, and strategy. So day one's really about understanding how credit works and then understanding how they come into play. Then we'll cover in bank points versus airline points, and we're going to cover by day three, we're going to cover cash rates versus the pros and cons of cash rate. Here's another misconception a lot of people have, new people have. They think that because a cash ticket is available, there must be a points ticket available as well. Like it's the same, like, oh, it's the same inventory. I'm like, it's totally different inventory. Like they put you on the award tickets sometimes open up for the flights that nobody wants to take. And then you need to look for that ticket that makes sense for you. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. So understanding that part of it is different too. But there's some great things about booking award tickets. You know what the good thing about booking award tickets? You can change your date at the last minute and say, I don't want to come home. I'm gonna fly tomorrow. I'm gonna fly in 2 days from now. And it does not cost you any more money. Something you would never think about doing on a cash ticket, but you can totally do on a points ticket an award ticket. You can be able to change the ticket where you're going to fly out of. You're going to change your connecting city. And those are all things that are possible. And it's a beautiful thing that people who never use points miles have no clue about. You can be able to fly for what you're going to normally pay for economy. You can be able to get a business class experience. So these are all things that I think it's important that people know up front and then they can get excited. And I think this is the biggest challenge. Most people who start in points miles and they try to tell their family members about it, it goes over their head. Like they can't grasp it. Like it's just like I don't understand. Like like because you're like a professor and they're in kindergarten. Does that make sense? Like they don't like you need to talk to them at the beginning. So until we get there, you won't ever get your family and friends involved, and then you're going to be only one. And this is important. I'll say this. This is why it's important for them to understand points miles. Because if they don't, you're going to end up having the stress of having to try to negotiate a whole strategy for them when they don't really understand what's going on. And so hopefully they understand what's going on and they earn their own points and they can earn it. Then it makes it a lot easier. Now you can have a great family vacation where sometimes height makes sense if you have points, but if it has cash, it's hard to tell people, yeah, you should come with me to the Thompson. Yeah, it's only $1,000 a night. But it's 20,000 points, but man, the cash rate is 1,000. You pretty much you're not going to be able to do these vacations with them, if they don't have points. So such a good thing to have. I really encourage people to come check this out. if they are going to be coming. Yeah, July 14 to 17. Love to have you guys. I'm gonna end it with someone that I recently had on my mentorship. He was actually one of my first students. I'm gonna see about, and I thought he did such a good job. Let me see here. Um, what's his name? I can't remember. All right, let's go. Okay, I found it. And for those who are watching, let me see here. Let me bring this up.
But when I first got into points and miles, I thought I had it straight. I was doing all the status matching. I was using my points. Turns out that I was making every single rookie mistake there is. After a few months, I lost all my statuses. I lost all my points, and I was in a pretty bad place. I thought I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know what I didn't know. So Ben was a guest speaker in one of the mentorships I'm in, and then after about 10 minutes, I immediately knew that this guy was the real deal. After that, I took his points and miles course, I took his hotel course, I took his Hyatt course. After all those courses, now I have a new approach on the lifestyle. I remember when Ben announced that he was having the mentorship, I don't even think I let him finish the conversation. As soon as he dropped the link, I was immediately in. So on the mentorship, he's dropping daily gems, promotions, like secret promotions, exclusive deals, and he gives us in-depth explanations on questions that we ask. I think he's explained things maybe 9 or 10 times to new members, and he never seems aggravated or anything. He's just really there to help. So from where I started when I was a travel rookie, now I'm heading towards being a travel ninja. I've learned so much from Ben. He teaches us how to be strategic with all our movements. I wanted to get a blue bank card, and he told me to wait until I need to get it. So now I'm going to Malaysia, and Malaysia has a lot of Hyatt properties. So now I'm going to apply for the business ink card, hit the bonus, and now when I go to Malaysia, I'm going to have all those points. I'm going to get the hotel for free just using the points. I'm going to fly over there business class, and this is all from Ben's teachings. Oh, by the way, did I tell you that the reason why I'm a globalist is because of him? All in all, this is one of the best investments that I've made. Hope to see you inside the mentorship, or hope to see you in Clubhouse.
All right. Thank you very much. I hope you guys are excited. The mentorship you guys have until the end of the month for those who have. Love to have you guys again for the next month. Let me know if you're interested. But it's been great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Winnie, for joining us for sure. Who else was here? Brooke, thank you as well. Joshua, thank you. Marie, Mia, and Peg. I hope you guys all picked up something today, and I look forward to seeing you folks. So tomorrow, oh, by the way, tomorrow I'm doing my preview for my group trip to Thailand. So if you have folks who are interested in joining me to Thailand, I'm going to give you all the details about what's going on with that. I'll send out an email to everyone afterward. But I'd love to have you guys join me if you are interested. Actually, let me put up the link here if you are interested in joining, or if you have anybody who is interested in going to Thailand on January 17 to 26. 17 to 26. I will be doing a preview. Let me just put in the link here so you guys can register, or you can send it to whoever is coming. It's going to be at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Put the link here. If you guys don't know my story, my family is like the first family. It got to be. It's really in the history books of here in America. My father opened up one of the oldest Thai restaurants here in the country now, and so it's one of those things where I like to be able to share a little bit about that Thai American experience growing up here and be able to share it with you when we go to Thailand and be able to take you guys to some of the best places so you can see. You really give you a good snapshot of the country in first class style. You guys will have the boats, we have transportation. Basically pick you up from the airport to take you guys back home. We'll have you guys all there, and it'll be fantastic. Marie, who's in this group, she was there in Thailand last year when we ran it, and I think she had a pretty good time as well. Yeah. All right, folks. Thank you, everyone. Is there anything else? Anyone have any questions? If not, I want to thank you for all joining.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Have a good night.